Hey guys, Cinema Buffs here, bringing you our review of the new movie, A Monster Calls. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of the movie, A Monster Calls tells the tale of this young boy who's going through some hard times in his life, and he escapes to his imagination, where this magnificently large monster comes, tells him these tales, and kind of helps him deal with it. And this is a new movie from director J.A. Bayona, or Bayona, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
But he's the director of The Orphanage, a horror movie that came out a few years ago, and one that Nate and I really both enjoyed, and really enjoyed how visually rich that movie is. So let's get right into the the visuals, the direction style of J.A. Bayona.
Yeah, like you said, I really enjoyed The Orphanage. I like his direction style. I think he has this sort of peaceful calmness to his style, in my opinion. The Orphanage was scary, but also a lot of heart. And I think this film sort of carries over into that quite a bit. You know, it is a children's tale, but it's definitely adult themes in this. And he handles that weight pretty well, I think. And all in all, I think it's a beautifully shot movie, while the special effects also were awesome. I love the look of the monster. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought that the special effects, the look of the monster was great, and just the tone, the setting, like the color palette that was used for this movie, that was really well handled too.
Yeah.
And also, when the monster is telling the tales to this kid, this all goes to these animation sequences.
Yeah.
And I thought those really stood out. I thought those were really well drawn, really well performed, executed.
Yeah, totally. I really like the animation scenes, and it also split up the movie enough where it did add some color, it added some light, some whimsy to it, because these topics that they cover are very heavy. It's a very heavy movie, and those little stories, I think, sort of break away from it a little bit in a good way. Also, I felt like a kid listening to a story around a campfire or something like that. You know, they really give that impression not only with the animation, which it's really like watercolor looking kind of oriented, but also just Liam Neeson's voice just has this awesome depth, and they add a little effect to it, but he can tell a good story.
Yeah, I think that the monster really works well, and just I think that along with the animation and just the visual effects, it creates this very fantastical world. And you know that you're escaping to a fantasy. At no point do you think this kid's like he's going insane and he's having like, sociopathic episodes. He's escaping to his fantasy.
Yeah.
It's going inside his head because the reality of life is just too much for him to cope with. Liam Neeson voicing this monster definitely helps. I mean, I think that he does have like one of those signature voices where you can tell that it's him, and he does have that like calming kind of tone, like depth, deep voice to him.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of Liam Neeson as monster and just the acting in general?
Honestly, I think that Liam Neeson as the monster was so cool. He does have a calming soothing voice, but when he gets angry, it's like really powerful. Yeah, it's very intense, like ground shaking. The monster also had a way bigger role than I thought he would. He has way more dialogue, and the conversations, I don't know, he's just like the most necessary piece to this story, I would say. Obviously, he's in the title, so that's no surprise, I guess. But the monster, I found no flaws with him. I really, really enjoyed him. I thought maybe they could have him be... He wasn't all that funny. He was very extreme, I would say. Like I thought maybe as a children's movie, they could have interjected a little bit more comedy here and there, at least like small little tidbits in there. Not enough to take you out of the experience. And then as for the human actors, once again across the board, Felicity Jones, she's kind of killing it.
Yeah. After from Rogue One going into this one, I think she's doing well. And I was very impressed with Sigourney Weaver in this movie.
Me too.
Who plays the young boy's grandmother, and she's the one who has to deal with this. The boy's mother is going through cancer, and so she has to deal with the mother and the grandson at the same time.
Yeah.
And she's kind of had this all falling on her shoulders because the boy's father is living outside of the country and everything.
Absent.
And I think that she handles the character very well. It's not the most prominent character in the movie, but her performance elevates the character and makes it more prominent.
It does. The accent was believable as well. She pulled off the accent just fine. And she's not this like evil grandmother, like meh, meh. Like she has reasons to feel the way she does, and the way she reacts to the little boy's emotions and things like that. And you sort of get a feel before you even meet her that she's pretty stern. They say that the grandfather was the only one that could even soften her up a little bit. So,
right.
But yeah, and even the main character, the little boy, what'd you think of him carrying this movie?
I thought that young actor, I believe his name is Louis McDougall, he did a fantastic job. He made you feel, and you went through this journey with him, and he was a believable character. He had things that almost every young man has felt or experienced in his life. And he has to deal with these, pressures and anxieties of just being a kid. on top of these extreme circumstances with his mother dying from cancer.
Yeah, it's he does hold it, and man, I thought there were some scenes where I'm like, this little kid, they're giving him a lot. Like, you have to pull this off, and he did it. Even from the moments of him waking up from a nightmare, he really does a great job of that, like panic-induced, like shaky, doesn't know where he is. I really thought, I was very impressed with the acting across the board. All very believable. There's lots of inner meaning to this, you know? It's a deep movie. It's a very deep movie.
Yes, this movie has to deal with the things that we pass on to the next generation. In fact, you find out eventually that, you know, the monster is this imaginary figure that this boy shared with his mother. It's kind of crafted around these stories that his mother used to tell him.
Yeah.
And I think that was very resonant, and the boy was having trouble letting his mother go, just dealing with the fact that she was going to die from this cancer.
Yeah.
He was trying to hold on to her, and he didn't realize what he needed to hold on to. He's trying to hold on to actually his mother, you know, because he doesn't want her to die, obviously. But he needed to realize that he needed to hold on to the memory of her and all the great things, and not focus on just all the crap that's been happening, that she's been going through this illness.
Yeah.
And I thought that through the storytelling and through the visuals and just through the metaphors of the kid's breaking a house, you know, in his imagination, but in reality, he's destroying a room in a house.
Right. These fits that you know these things happen, you know, with these kids, you know.
Exactly. And he goes to that place in his mind, and it just shows how tough it is to deal with these circumstances, not only as a child, but it shows it from the mother's perspective, from the ex-husband's perspective too, as well.
Yeah, and I thought that there is so much meaning behind this, and I think that it's a great movie for kids to see. I think it can be a little scary at times, but I think right around that age of like 12, 14, like in between there, whether or not you're going through a horrible tragedy, it's also the insecurities of just being a kid, of being smaller than others, or being picked on, or feeling just alone. You know, this kid just feels very much alone, and he escapes through this monster. He becomes almost his friend. You know, he's a little bit... But he's not afraid of the monster. That's what I really liked. This kid is fairly fearless.
Yeah, he stood right up to the monster when he first approached them.
Yeah, and he's strong and everything. But yeah, this movie. I mean, I got a little misty-eyed. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's a strong movie. I also liked that they covered a lot of the guilt that comes with being a kid. If you're going, I guess not just being a kid, but being an adult, of going through a tragedy or losing somebody, and also that desire that you just don't want to feel this anymore. Like, you're almost ready for it to be done. Like, and you feel guilty. You don't want this person to go away, but you also don't want to feel like this anymore. And you feel a little bit torn in two directions. And I think they covered that and handled that, where if a kid is ever going through something like this, like God forbid, that it's okay to feel those emotions.
Yes.
You know, it's okay to let go. It's okay to feel like you just don't want to deal with it anymore. And I thought they handled it very gracefully.
Yeah, there are scenes in this movie that I feel that if it was handled, you know, with less respect and less, you know, true care for the story material, it would come off as sappy or cheesy or just dying for you to cry at it. But no, they have these scenes. They have these emotional scenes where, no, it just makes you feel, and you experience it with them. And they do it with great dialogue. I thought there's great bits of dialogue. Yeah. I agree with you that there could have been a little bit more light. There could have been a little bit more comedy. Yeah. But I think that the conversations that the boy has with his father, his mother, and his grandmother are all very resonant.
Buff. All right, so that's our review of A Monster Calls, but now it's time to score it. This is our first review of the year. So Dennis, first movie, first review, put a score on it. What did you think?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie, especially considering January is the month that they usually shove off the bad movies to.
Yeah.
But I'd say if I only had my only gripe with this movie would be that it's just a little familiar territory, the escaping to a fantastical world, to, you know, escape your problems, kind of Alice in Wonderland, Pan's Labyrinth-ish.
Yeah.
But overall, this movie was executed very well, and instead of dealing with those issues in those other movies I mentioned, this deals with a very real issue, a very realistic issue, and I think that this movie could actually help people deal with, you know, family tragedies and illnesses going on in their lives. Mm-hmm. So, once again, very high, kind of familiar territory, so I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
Okay, yeah. I agree. This is very familiar territory, but I think that stories like this are necessary, especially with kids that don't, you know, they don't see those other ones that were the same thing. So it's a fairy tale for a new generation, I would say. And like you said, very well done. My only gripe with it, I actually didn't mind that it was familiar territory. I minded that it was just so heavy-handed. Like, just a smile here and there would have helped for children to enjoy this just a little bit more, comedy. Do I think it would fit in? I don't know. I don't know how they would have even done it, but either way, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it's a great start of the year for movies, and I'm going exactly the same. I'm going 8 out of 10. I really, really like this movie.
Buff.
All right, so that's it for our review of Monster Calls. What did you guys think? Did you see the movie? Why don't you go ahead and comment down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We truly appreciate all the support here at Cinema Buffs. And 2017, we're off to a pretty good start. We hope that we're off to a better start with Martin Scorsese's movie that we'll be reviewing next week, Silence.
That's right, but before that, this Wednesday we'll have our strongest, weakest Scorsese movies. So look out for that. We have some pretty good discussions going on about our favorites and least favorites. So check that out, but don't forget,
there's no place like the theater.
Hey everyone, Nate here from Cinema Buffs. You know, a wise man once said, it's not your abilities that show who you truly are, it's your choices. So choose to become a Cinema Buff and click that button to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and remember, there's no place like the theater.